Hello everyone. What is the second largest cause of mortality in the world? Cancer. Cancer is the second leading cause of mortality behind cardiovascular disease. Module 8 provides a basic overview of cancer and then focuses on why cancer patients have increasingly turned to cannabis. To understand why cancer patients might use cannabis, it is important to understand what a cancer patient experiences. As you can probably imagine, there's a great deal of anxiety and stress after the initial diagnosis, during treatment, and for some years after treatment. The cancer itself often involves pain, and even if the cancer itself is not causing pain, it often involves surgery, chemotherapy, and/or radiation, all of which can be a significant source of pain. As you already learned, research suggests that cannabis has some modest benefits with respect to pain. So pain management is one obvious reason that cancer patients may use cannabis. The painful chemotherapy-induced neuropathies that develop in the extremities is a good example of this. In addition, chemotherapy often makes people nauseated, which is another treatment side effect that may be addressed with cannabinoids. In a nutshell, cancer patients report using cannabis for pain, nausea, and vomiting, and anxiety or negative mood. Having said that, one of the most important learning objectives for this module is to talk about some of the myths about cannabis and cancer and why it is so important that people do not mistake the potential benefits of cannabis for symptoms of cancer with the idea that cannabis is a treatment for cancer. It is true that cannabinoids can suppress the proliferation of tumors in cells in a dish and in mouse models of cancer, but there's no solid research evidence yet that cannabis products have any cancer-killing properties in humans. To the extent that it causes a cancer patient to delay a visit to their oncologist or delay traditional cancer treatment, the notion that cannabis may treat cancer is very dangerous. In summary, it is clear that many cancer patients report that cannabis products may help them cope with cancer, but we still need a lot more information on which products, which formulations, and which ratio of cannabinoids are least risky and most beneficial in this population. We will cover these issues and hear from two leaders in the field of oncology during this module. I hope you enjoy it. All right, this lecture will be an overview of cancer, and we're going to start off by talking about what is cancer. Well, the first thing you need to know is that cancer is the second leading cause of death. About 1/3 of deaths from cancer are due to things like tobacco use, obesity, low fruit and vegetable consumption, and lack of physical activity. And of course, when you see that list of four of the primary contributors to cancer, what does that suggest to you? Hopefully it suggests that these are four of the factors that actually are under our control that we can change. In any case, moving on to some more statistics here, about 9.6 million people worldwide are estimated to die from cancer, or were estimated to die from cancer in 2018. In the United States, the total economic cost of cancer was estimated to be about $1.16 trillion in 2010. And as I just mentioned a minute ago, if you look at this list of causes, these are all behavioral and under our control. And so about 30 to 50% of cancers can be prevented. And some of these stats come from the World Health Organization, and they have a nice summary of cancer on their website. So moving on, in terms of what exactly is cancer in terms of the biology of it, this is just a 30,000-foot overview of what happens with cancer. But basically, when we talk about cancer, we're talking about a collection of related diseases with a commonality, which basically is that cells begin to divide uncontrollably. So normally, human cells grow. New cells are formed as the body needs them, and the body gets rid of older damaged cells. When cancer develops, that whole process breaks down. With cancer, old or damaged cells survive when they should die off, and new cells end up forming when they're not needed. And then those extra cells divide without stopping and form tumors. So this is just a quick graphical depiction of what we're talking about here. On the left-hand side, we have normal cell division, and when there's a damaged cell or mutation in a cell, that cell is either repaired, or if it's not repaired, it basically undergoes apoptosis or cell death, right? So that's a way to get rid of a damaged cell. With cancer cell division, you end up with some cells with a mutation, and then a second mutation, a third mutation. This is just an example. A fourth mutation, and then you end up with uncontrollable growth. And it is this uncontrollable growth that is the primary feature of cancer. Okay, so some tumors, right, but not all of them, spread into or invade nearby tissues. And those are the ones that are called malignant tumors. And some cancer cells can break off and travel through the blood or the lymph system and form new tumors in more distant places, which obviously is really bad. And so benign tumors, we also have benign tumors that do not spread into or invade other tissues. And when those are removed, usually they don't come back and they don't require any further treatment. So it's this cancer that spreads throughout the body, obviously, is the very deadly kind of cancer. So we talked about normal cells turning into cancer cells, but how does that happen? Well, typically there's some external agent. Something causes a genetic mutation, and that something can be ultraviolet radiation. It can be chemical carcinogens like asbestos or components of tobacco smoke, and it also can be biological in nature, like viruses or bacteria or parasites. And I mentioned this already twice, actually, but you can't really mention it too many times. 30 to 50% of cancers can be prevented, at least that's the thinking, by avoiding risk factors and by implementing evidence-based prevention strategies. And this is according to the World Health Organization, but consistent with our National Cancer Institute and American Cancer Society too. Again, some large portion of cancers can, in theory, be preventable. So age is a fundamental risk factor for cancer. And of course that makes sense, right? Because the older you are, the more you've accumulated exposure to carcinogens. And also, of course, the older you are, these cellular repair mechanisms aren't nearly as effective when you're older. So let's talk for a minute about tobacco and alcohol in cancer. And these are two agents that are that contribute substantially to cancer. So tobacco smoking is linked to 15 different cancers. Alcohol use has been linked to 7 different types of cancer. And these are a couple of cool infographics I picked up from the cancer research people in the United Kingdom, the UK. But this on the left-hand side is just an illustration of alcohol and the fact that it's linked with 7 different types of cancer, things like mouth and upper throat cancer, breast cancer in women. And then over here, we see basically smoking. If you stop smoking, that can help prevent 15 types of cancer. So these are the types of cancers that are related to smoking. So again, alcohol and cancer, 2 preventable causes of different kinds of cancer. And the third one I wanted to highlight here is obesity. Being overweight can also contribute to different types of cancer. In this case, the infographic is summarizing the relationship between being overweight and 13 different types of cancer, including things like breast cancer and bowel cancer. Okay, now we're going to switch gears for a minute, and let's just talk about cancer and anxiety. So put yourself in the shoes of a cancer patient, right? When you're first diagnosed with cancer, obviously there's initial shock and there's fear and there's anxiety, and that continues all the way through while you're waiting for a treatment plan. And you can imagine that, especially if it's a serious kind of cancer, there are thoughts of dying and thoughts of death, and all of this elicits extreme anxiety. And then when you get a treatment plan, there's going to be even more anxiety, right? Because now your doctors are talking about side effects like hair loss, the pain, nausea, vomiting, and so obviously that's going to jack up the anxiety even more. And then you may think, oh well, after treatment, especially if the cancer's gone, maybe the anxiety will be gone too. But the truth is that cancer patients talk about anxiety about the return of cancer. So obviously you're anxious about will the cancer come back. So it's not surprising at all then that 1 in 3 cancer patients experience major mood disturbances, and both anxiety and depression. And survivors of cancer are much more likely to experience subsequent mood disturbances. And there are definitely has been effort to target that aspect of cancer, and there are a number of treatments out there. Traditional psychological interventions like mindfulness and relaxation, cognitive behavioral therapy, things of this nature. So cancer anxiety is an important component. And then another important piece here is cancer and pain. The tumors themselves can produce pain by putting pressure on bones and nerves, by putting pressure on the spine and organs. Chemotherapy often induces peripheral neuropathy, which we've talked about before in the context of type 2 diabetes. But basically, there are a whole slew of issues that go along with chemotherapy, as I mentioned, peripheral neuropathy, but also mouth sores are a common problem. So there's definitely pain involved with chemotherapy. When you get to the radiation phase, once again, pain is a part of that. And then, of course, surgery can be a significant source of pain. Lumbar puncture, which is common in some forms of cancer, also a significant source of pain. So cancer and pain, that's another important piece. And then another one is cancer and sleep. So you can imagine that sleep disruption and sleep problems are pretty common. And we just finished talking about sleep in the last module. And of course, if you're getting less sleep, right, then it makes everything worse in terms of the pain and anxiety and so forth. So difficulty falling asleep is an issue. Waking in the middle of the night, problems maintaining sleep, insomnia are all common. And so the etiology of this varies by type of cancer and treatment, right? And, again, these things are interconnected. So pain contributes to sleep problems. Sleep problems contribute to the experience of pain. Obviously, if you're nauseated and you're vomiting, that's going to make it hard to sleep. And then one of the issues here, too, is that sleep problems can become chronic. So even once you're past the chemotherapy stage or the radiation stage, if you've been experiencing sleep problems for 6 months, there's a chance these are going to become a chronic problem, even though you're now in a different phase of your treatment for cancer. So it's also worth noting that 30 to 50% of prescriptions that cancer patients get are for hypnotics, right? Again, suggesting that sleep is a big complaint. So in conclusion, cancer is the second leading cause of death worldwide. Close to 10 million people died in 2018. 1/3 of cancer cases are attributable to behavior and consumption of substances like tobacco and alcohol and obesity. And then the following symptoms are quite common in cancer patients. So anxiety and stress, pain, sleep disturbance, and then other side effects also from chemotherapy and radiation. And then finally, treatment involves treating the cancer itself as well as the symptoms listed above. So obviously your doctors are not just focused on treating the cancer, but they're also focused on helping their patients with the sleep, anxiety, pain, etc.